This is Gareth Southgate, and this is the Three Lions podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Three Lions podcast. My name is Russell Osborne and this is an independent England football supporters podcast. I hope I find you well and I hope you found the recent episodes of interest. All those previous ones, be it the Nations League draw, the transfer window episode, or the really popular episode with Lisa and her Macedonian street dog, Lexo. Well, they can all be found at your podcast provider of choice or threelionspodcast.com. That Lexo episode is a real love story, that one, which brings me nicely onto this week's episode. Bit of fun, this one. Maybe you're listening after opening up all those cards or boxes of chocolates or whatever you've been given this Valentine's Day. Yes, it's a silly little episode. A little space filler, my gift to you. An episode, basically it's an episode with some historical notes thrown in for fun to celebrate this day. I think you'll learn at least one thing from this episode. I've not done one like this before, to be honest, and chances are I won't again. But here we go. February the 14th, Valentine's Day. St. Valentine's Day, or the Feast of St. Valentine. It's a Christian day of celebration for the 3rd century Roman saint who was martyred and buried on the 14th back in the year 269. He's patron saint of the Italian city of Terni, epilepsy and beekeeping. See? Told you you'd learn something. From what I can gather, though, he had very little, if not anything, to do with modern-day football or the international game. So I've found a barrel to scrape and been through the archives. But before I begin, I should credit both England Football Online and England Stats. If you're ever surfing around on the net for some England information, go check them both out. Now, the men's team haven't played in February for some time now. You have to go back to 2013 when we played Brazil at Wembley in one of the FA's 150th celebration matches. It's a game that we won 2-1 thanks to goals from Wayne Rooney and Frank Lampard. That, though, was the 6th of February. So I know what you're thinking. And yes, as I say, I've done the research. The men's team have played 3 times on Valentine's Day. Firstly, back in 1903, in a home match against Ireland, which was played at Wolves Molineux ground in a British Championships match, which we won 4-0. Now, incidentally, this was a tournament where the title was shared by 3 nations. Ourselves, Ireland and Scotland, all playing 3 matches and all finishing on 4 points, whilst Wales were left with the wooden spoon with no points to their name. England, Ireland and Scotland all won 2 and drew 1, but England topped the group with a goal difference of +4. So clearly those 4 goals against Ireland making the difference. So really, we should have been declared sole winners, in my opinion. Anyway, the next time we played on Valentine's Day was 11 years later, 1914, 5 months before the world would be turned on its head. Once again, Ireland were the visitors, hopping across the Irish Sea and heading to Ayresome Park, the then home of Middlesbrough. Ireland would beat England for the first time on our own soil. winning 3-0 in front of 25,000. Again, it was another British Championship game, a tournament that Ireland would win and England would finish third. Now, the war years followed when the tournament, for obvious reasons, didn't take place. And England, we wouldn't win the home championships again until the 1929-1930 season. The third and most recent match played on this day, you have to go back to 1973. England away to Scotland in a Scottish FA centenary anniversary match, played up at Hampden Park on a pitch covered in snow. England, we were 3-0 up within 15 minutes, thanks to a Peter Lorimer own goal. Alan Clark of Leeds got the first of two, and Mick Channon also scored. The second half saw Martin Chivers score before Clark got his second. Alf Ramsey in charge. He would almost be into his final year as manager of the Three Lions. Obviously the result is great, beating Scotland in an anniversary game on their own ground. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? When you look back at last year's 150th Scottish anniversary game that we spoilt. But it is a game that is remarkable as such as it was Captain Bobby Moore's 100th cap. And in doing so, he became the third English player to reach this milestone, following Billy Wright and Bobby Charlton. So I bought the programme from eBay. There it is. Just here. Cost me more than the 10 pence it was priced at back in 1973. It's obviously very Scottish heavy, celebrating that anniversary. But there's a full rundown of all the previous matches between the two back then, which at the time stood at played 89, and Scotland had the upper hand, winning 35. England had won 32 with 22 draws. And I'm sure you'll be as surprised as I was when I tell you there is not one reference to Valentine's Day in it. St Mirren's ground of Love Street gets a mention, but there's not even a tenuous link there. I missed a trick. But let me take you to the centre pages, just where the teams are. And back then, they used to have a timing of events, things that would take place before the match kicked off. They don't so much have this sort of thing now, I don't think. But let me just read this to you. So from 7 p.m. until 12 minutes past 7, the combined bands of the junior pipers, drummers and bandsmen of the Scottish division. 7:12 until 7:22, there was a display marching of the Air Majorettes. 7:23 until 7:28, just cycling. Nothing more, nothing less. Cycling. Now 7:28 until 7:43, a decorated float featuring the winner and finalists in the Daily Record Glamour Soccer Fan Competition. Miss Soccer Strip will throw footballs to the crowd as she circles the stadium. Well, that's very of its time, isn't it? Then and bear in mind it snowed at the time, so I'm not quite sure if Miss Soccer Strip was wrapped up or not. But then the majorettes came back on, then the national anthems, then the game kicked off, then England beat Scotland 5-0.
England captain Bobby Moore collects his 100th international cap, and Scotland celebrate a century of soccer at the Scotland versus England International at Hampden Park. England attack, and Channon shoots wide, but Lorimer tips the ball into his own net, 1-up for England. Channon heads the ball down, and Clark finishes it off. Scotland 0, England 2. Chivers throws in towards the Scottish goal, and Channon sweeps it in off the post. England 3. Second half, and Channon again. All the matches in his career, this is Channon's match. Lorimer takes a free kick and Scotland scores, but the French referee rules offside. Shivers intercepts and turns the ball into the net. England 4. Shannon, like the Scarlet Pimpernel, here, there and everywhere. Then Clark finishes a powerful run with a low cross shot. England 5, Scotland 0. And the shocked hosts of Scotland don't know who to cheer.
It would appear that various England amateur teams and youth level teams have also played on this particular date, but it would seem that the England women have only played on this date once. And I say England women, as back in 2008, they weren't really called the Lionesses, but it was Valentine's Day 2008 away in Larnaca, Cyprus, where England women beat Norway 2-1 in a friendly game. A team that featured the likes of Alex Scott, Casey Stoney, Karen Carney, Farrell Williams and Kelly Smith. Now, it's a date that has seen 6 capped England players born on, 4 of whom played back in the late 1800s. But Burnley and Everton midfielder Martin Dobson won all 5 of his caps in 1974. Ipswich Town's Russell Osman won 11 caps between 1980 and 1983. But I think the most significant player born on this day, with regards to our national team, is Kevin Keegan. Born in 1951, he went on to play 63 times for England, scoring 21 times, and of course took over the managerial reins in 1999 for the Euro 2000 qualifier at home to Poland, winning 3-1. He took us to the Euros before giving it all up after a defeat to Germany in 2000, in the last match to be played beneath the old Twin Towers of Wembley. Sadly, though, it is a day where we also lost one of England's finest. Back in 2014, Sir Tom Finney passed away, aged 91, a one-club man, 433 games for Preston North End between 1940 and 1960, and 76 England caps between 1946 and 1958, where he scored 30 goals, one of which was on his debut in a 7-2 victory away to Ireland. And at one point, he was England's top scorer, sharing the record with Vivian Woodford and Nat Lofthouse. Where else can we go with this Valentine's theme? No player has represented England with the surname Valentine. Wales under-21, they've had a player, Ryan Valentine. And Nigeria currently have Valentine Ozonwo-Waifor, who plays for Sochaux in France. But it doesn't appear to be the most common of names for footballers. The surname Love hasn't appeared for England, but has done for Brazil. Wagner Love. And would you believe it? Against England. 2007, that first game at the new Wembley. Love was in the starting 11 for Brazil that day. So we move on, a little tenuously. Tim Flowers. Who hasn't given flowers for Valentine's Day? Tim Flowers won 11 senior caps between 1993 and 1998. 10 of those whilst with Blackburn Rovers, who he famously won the Premier League with in 1995. And out of those 11 caps, he was only on the losing side once, against Brazil in 1995. But with David Seaman, the number one choice at the time, Flowers, well, he was always the backup keeper. There was another Flowers, Ron Flowers, a fullback from Wolves who played 49 times for the Three Lions between 1955 and 1966. He was actually a squad member for the 66 winning side. Ron, though, passed away in November of 2021. We continue. Joe Hart. told you they'd be tenuous, as it is spelt H-A-R-T. England's number one for a considerable time. 75 caps between 2008 and 2017. He actually wore the captain's armband on 2 occasions. Both times, though, when players were subbed off. Speaking of armbands, I'll come to that in a bit. There was another Hart, Leeds United's Ernie Hart. 8 caps between 1928 and 1934 as a centre-half. There have been 2 Roses who have played for England. Danny, I'm sure, is the one who comes to mind first. 29 caps whilst playing for Tottenham. He was a member of the 2018 Russia World Cup squad. But there was also goalkeeper Billy Rose, who won 5 caps between 1888 and 1891. And on his debut against Ireland, he was, at the time, England's youngest player, aged just 22 years and 84 days. Now, some would say that a pair of swans are a symbol of love, an animal that is known to mate for life. And of course, when 2 face each other, they form a heart-like shape. Which brings me to Sheffield Wednesday's Peter Swan. 19 appearances between 1960 and 1962 as a centre-half, although that's only half the story. I remember my granddad, a Sheffield Wednesday fan, telling me about Peter Swan. He, alongside 2 other Wednesday players, were involved in a betting scandal that saw him sent to prison for 4 months and banned for life. Apparently, it was a huge deal at the time, just as it is now. His ban was later to be overturned, but it was a costly mistake, as apparently Alf Ramsey had previously said to him he could well have been part of the 66 team. Now, I mentioned armbands. There was, of course, the One Love captain's armband, intended to be worn during the Qatar World Cup, designed to promote inclusion and send a message against discrimination of any kind. It was a white armband with a rainbow-coloured heart on it, with the number 1 within it. Designed to be worn with other European nations. FIFA, however, put the kibosh on it days before the tournament commenced, saying that players would be booked if they took to the field wearing it. The FA and England decided that as a team, we couldn't risk Harry Kane receiving a yellow card before a ball had been kicked, and stepped back from the campaign. So, let's dim the lights, put some music on. What to choose? Well, I mentioned Kevin Keegan, born this day, 1951. Back in 1979, he had his eyes on the pop charts and released a single called Head Over Heels in Love.
You may be a stranger, that's what time can do. Baby, you mean everything to me. Darling, there's no danger with all that we've been through, that anyone could love you more than me. And it looks like I'm falling all over again. Head over heels in love with you. Yes, it looks like I'm falling all over again.
Then there's New Order's World in Motion, which of course has the lyrics, Love's got the world in motion.
Love's got the world in motion, and I know what we can do. Love's got the world in motion, and I can't believe it's true.
Great tune. And of course, there's the adaptation of Atomic Kitten's Whole Again. Southgate, you're the one.
Looking back on when we first met, I cannot stay, but I cannot forget. Southgate, you're the one. This is me on. Football's coming home again. Southgate, you're the one. This is me on. Football's coming home again.
And finally, I guess, the heart goal celebration. Making the shape of a heart with your fingers and hands. Gareth Bale was doing it back in 2012. Didn't do it, though, against us in 2016, though. Zlatan Ibrahimovic has since done it, as has Angel Di Maria. Ella Toone was seen doing it for the Lionesses after she scored against Australia in last year's World Cup semi-final. But I guess the ultimate celebration of love was seen during the 1994 World Cup as Bebeto, Romario and Mazinho all cradled and swung their arms to celebrate the birth of Bebeto's third child, Mateus, who incidentally plays the game and has won 4 under-20 Brazil caps. Now I'm making you feel old, aren't I? But I think I've dragged this out as much as I can. Maybe you can think of some more. Let me know. Drop me a line on social media. Just search 3 Lions Podcast. And I'll be back with another episode very soon. Not sure what it'll be about just yet. But stay subscribed and you won't miss it. So until then, take care. Lots of love. Cheers.